Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 114 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. Last time, episode 113, we had a guest on the show, Sunny Flame, and we had a really good discussion and review and gave our thoughts on the Odyssey crossover story, Those Who Are Treasured, that was released just a couple of weeks ago now. And in this episode, we're coming back to do the second half of this crossover story. So a new story in Valhalla called A Fated Encounter. I played it and completed it a few days after release. We should say that we're recording this on the 21st of December. This will go out New Year's Eve. Declan, what's the plan for release?
I think it is New Year's Day. I'm going to try and get it out, yeah.
New Year's Day. So by then, probably lots of people have completed the story. It will have been released for a couple of weeks, but we're planning ahead so that we've got an episode coming out every week as normal, even over the Christmas and New Year period. So I finished the story and all of the side content on the island of Skye 3 or 4 days ago. Declan, have you had a chance to finish the story?
I finished the story last night. I kind of rushed through it to get it done for today's episode, just zoomed through it, but I haven't done any side content, so I'm hoping to revisit either Sky to the side content. Side content. I'm going to just call it Sky content now. It makes more sense.
I like that, Sky content. We're on the Isle of Skye up in Scotland, so why not? So we've both finished the main story, so we are going to talk spoilers here for the story as you play in Valhalla. We may revisit and talk about some of the items in Odyssey. So if you've not played this story, go play it, then come back and listen to us, or listen to the spoilers. It's all good. Actually, maybe we start with the Isle of Skye, and I want to come back to something I said when we were discussing the Odyssey episode last week, and I really felt that Corfu, the new island, although it was the same assets, it's the same grass, they're the same trees, the same rocks as we have in other parts of the Greek world. I really felt like they were combined in a way that gave Corfu its own feeling. It felt like a unique location within the world of Greece. I didn't feel the same with Skye, if I'm honest with you. It's really beautiful, green fields, some sort of low mountains, a couple of very high vantage points. You've got beautiful sea. The lighting in Valhalla is amazing, but it didn't feel quite as special to me as a location. Did you have any thoughts on the setting for this new story?
I think it's just because being British and having an addiction with British outdoors, I was kind of more hooked. And I haven't played Odyssey, so I'll probably be more addicted to Corfu than Valhalla's, but I've always adored the way Britain looks from an outdoor point of view. I live up in the Lake District, so I've got the fells, the lakes, and everything, and it's fantastic. So Isle of Skye is, a very remote, grassy area, and you get that sense straight away, and it was kind of magical. But there is one feature of Skye that is in all parts of Valhalla except Siege of Paris that is starting to annoy the hell out of me.
Oh, go ahead.
The weather. I know we're British, and I know the British memes about the rain, but why is it 90% of all of Valhalla's weather, except for Siege of Paris, is rain? It's just too much. And I don't mean to be picky, I just feel like I spent more time in Skye when I first played it, meditating for clear skies, so I could take screenshots without it raining.
That is a really good point. It is hard to get a nice portrait or a nice landscape because it does rain a lot in the game.
We're British, it doesn't rain that much in Britain. It's like it hasn't rained for 2 days. In Valhalla, we would have had 15 ounces of rain.
True. So I'll tell you what we should say in terms of starting the new story. There's a couple of prerequisites. So you can play this story at any point. It'll become available to you from Ravensthorpe, but you do need to be, I think it's settlement level 4. So you've got to have completed some of the content and story content in England, or maybe just done a lot of raids so that you've earned those supplies to build your settlement. And Valka must have arrived from Norway. Now, what I don't remember, because I've only played through the main story of Valhalla once, I don't remember if Valka arrives after a specific quest or just when you get to settlement level 4, it kind of triggers that cutscene where Valka arrives. But Valka has to have arrived in Ravensthorpe. And then there's a new guest that asks Eivor to head north to help out with, well, people losing sleep, isn't it? And having strange dreams and nightmares.
Um,
When we arrive, we're sent straight to a town called Kilterraglan. Eivor follows a series of pretty simple clues. There are some obvious hints to eagles being seen in people's visions and a warrior with a braid. I have to say, playing on the whole braid thing did make me laugh, because when we saw Randvi in the trailers more than a year ago now, I mean, my immediate conclusion, and a number of fans looked at Ranvi's character model, particularly the hairstyle, and went, "That's Cassandra's hairstyle." Not a criticism of development. There's only so many hairstyles a character can have. I get that assets get reused, designs get reused, not a problem. But a number of people were thinking, is that actually supposed to be Cassandra, but just sort of hiding as a different character, or some strange relation of Cassandra? I don't think it is. I don't think Randvi is, but it was a nice play on that similarity where Valka said, "I've had visions of Randvi causing trouble," and then we go to find this warrior with a braid. Eivor follows the clues. She heads towards a ruined, cursed church with thick fog everywhere, dead bodies everywhere, and we see Cassandra through the mist. What did you think, Declan, when you came in and you could see Cassandra pacing back and forth through the mist, then we finally go and talk to her?
Before we get to that, there is two things I want to discuss. One, I broke the game. I don't know how I did it, but I broke the game.
Okay.
But I just want to quickly go back a couple of steps, because I forgot to mention this.
Yeah, go for it.
You mentioned how you can play the game before completing the main game, right? You got to get to level 4.
Correct.
Well, sorry if he's listening and I butcher his name. I think it's Yasimo from the Mentors Guild. He's a Spanish mentor. He actually sent the Mentors 2 pictures, and you might like these. And he put after main game Basim, verse before main game, right, as Layla. And on Layla's desk there's a note saying, "Note regarding Cassandra. This must be a first. Ava actually met Cassandra. This means that Layla as an Animus host met a previous Animus host in the simulation. Could Layla have noticed anything odd in the Animus brought on by Cassandra's sudden appearance? Not only that, but could the staff have sensed Layla's presence as its current keeper? I have so many questions." And
Hang on
if
a
you've
minute.
come,
You're gonna. My brain has just been fried. So, and I haven't done this. So, if you exit, I have seen a picture of this. So, if you, or someone screenshotted it, if you exit the Animus after this quest, after a fated encounter, there's a letter, is there, or there's a note in the hut in the modern day?
there's 2 depending on who you are. So if you've done it before the main game, you'll get that
Ah,
one
gotcha.
off with Layla. That's one's Layla specific. But if you do it after you beat the main game, you'll get a Basim one saying, "Note regarding Cassandra. So the great eagle bearer travelled all the way to the land of the Picts. I wonder what else the legendary mercenary might have accomplished after leaving the Greece centuries ages ago. Ugh. Alethea's memory was well accompanied by Cassandra. I only wish it could have been me instead." So you get that really heartfelt
Okay, so
how
he wanted to.
Basim.
Yeah, wanted to be with
So
Alethea.
that is a shout out to Yasimo, but I'm really sorry for pronouncing the name. But on to the actual topic of meeting Cassandra, I broke the game.
Oh no! Go on. What happened?
So prior to this, I read the IGN walkthrough to see if jog my memory because I sped
Okay.
through it.
Yeah.
And on the first mission, you've got to talk to people to get an answer to the nightmares to find the location. Now, according to the IGN, there's 3 or 4 people you can talk to.
Yes.
Like one's in a hut, one's standing out. However, on my playthrough, I found the bride straight away,
Okay.
and I talked to the bride, and that completed the mission straight away. So I kinda did not speak to 4 people in the village. I spoke to the bride, and she
All
told
right.
me to go to the church. So
I had the same as you, and I didn't know that was not supposed to happen.
no, according to the IGN guide, because as I said, I read the walkthrough 10 minutes ago,
Hmm.
because I was like, well, I need to know what I'm doing. It's jog my memory. I sped through it, and I think
Yeah, of course.
skipped two cutscenes by accident. But yeah, when I read the guide, tossing and turning's the mission. There
Yes.
is about 4 people in the village you can talk to. There's the groom. You can talk to the groom. Cursed guy civilian.
Hmm.
There's also the bride, which is the one I went to first. So you're meant to talk to the cursed civilian first, the groom first, and he's like, doves on a wedding day spell luck, but an eagle, nothing but doom, nothing but doom. And then you manage to find a cursed civilian trapped in a hut, and it started with a bird's eye view. No, an eagle's view. And then eventually, you get the bride. It's at a church northwest town. That's all I saw my dreams. So
Interesting.
it's interesting how you meant to find 3 people to put it together, but no, you can talk to the groom and you see Cassandra, and this is where I give pros to the developers. The fight scene. They
The choreography of that scene.
oof.
Yeah.
They could have turned it into a cheesy battle with Cassandra, and don't mean that in a harsh way, but it was the predictable moment you fight Cassandra as a character.
Mm.
Uh, but no, to make it a cinematic set piece
Yeah.
was the icing on a cake, especially after what you discussed the other day with Odyssey, and she said, I prefer to fight with a spear, and then sharpens an axe handle. It was,
It was
oh,
fantastic.
so good. I just wanted to watch that fight scene over and again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As,
It was a hard fight. They were not pulling any punches.
as
But it
in,
was also a very inventive, creative um, choreography. You know, Eivor uses her throwing axes ability I think it might be the first ability we unlock in Norway. She uses her harpoon, and again, the way that whoever had the creativity to think, how can we use these abilities to tell a story, but also in a bit of fun, but also to show that this is a fight scene grounded in what you as the player have probably unlocked by now. It was fantastic. It really was fantastic. My
I think
question
what
for
got
you, Declan, would you have liked to have played as Eivor played through a fight? Or were you
mm,
happy to sit back and watch it?
I would not have played through a fight. No,
Okay.
it playing for a fight ruins the moment. Because the first time you fight and you try and attack with your hidden blade, Cassandra makes a
Yes.
note of it mentally. She's like, ooh. And then the second time, you're like, okay, we've both got something to talk about.
Yes.
I really don't think there would have been a good enough flow with Valhalla's boss battle system for us to be able to, do that sort of mechanicalness to make
Yep.
it make sense. Because
It's a good point.
if people were just playing really heavy build with spears, ooh, spears, then it wouldn't make sense, that Ava's throwing a harpoon about because they may not have it on the ability wheel. So
That's a
all the way
very
for
good point, actually.
cinematics.
Yeah,
Pardon me.
hadn't thought of that, but it does make sense. They can set the tone and the pace of the fight, use the abilities they want by script. I mean, I was happy to sit back for a couple of minutes, or maybe it's only a minute long. I don't know how long it is. It's not very long, but it is intense, isn't it? Between these two,
It's actually one of my favourite fight scenes. Gotta admit.
that was actually going to be my next question. How would you kind of rank it in terms of rendered or scripted cutscene fights? How does it rank? I mean, I thought it was a strong introduction, absolutely,
Um,
for the
uh,
two of them.
the rank I'll give it, and I'm probably gonna get shot for this, is up there with my all-time favourite cinematic pieces of AC history.
Mm.
The Revelations trailer for Ezio is fighting all them guards,
Oh
and
yes,
then he gets, about to do the leap of faith and he sees Altair. That is one of my most impactful
that's a good
cinematics,
cutscene. That is a good
along
scene.
alongside the cinematic trailer for Origins, because I just love the shoots the arrow, and you get that cheesy reality where people think arrows are just straight, but you can see the arrow wobbling because of the type of materials. It looks realistic,
Yes,
and he
yes.
catches it. That's just so. This one has to be up there with them three.
Hmm.
I'm not a big cutscene person, but it just kind of drove home two iconic characters. A mercenary who doesn't need to act like an assassin. She's stronger than most assassins. They hide in
Yeah,
bushes, but she could probably take on Altair and Ezio in a fist fight.
I
So
I think so. But you've brought us straight on to a point I wanted to make. So as you said during the fight, sort of halfway, 2/3 way through the fight, they get very close up. Eivor sort of activates her hidden blade, and Cassandra holds her arm and holds it back. A few seconds later, Cassandra's in with her left arm. She activates her hidden blade, and again, Eivor blocks it. And Cassandra says, "It looks like we do have some things to talk about." They've both got hidden blades. First of all, Cassandra has a hidden blade. That is fascinating from a character history point of view. Where has she been? Who has she met? How did she get the design, or who built it for her? All of these questions. Um, but also, the next conversation they have is I forget the exact wording, but it's along the lines of um, Cassandra says to Ava, are you aligned? Or do you work for the hidden ones? And you've got a dialogue choice there. I don't think it matters what choice you make. I said I don't trust them because, hey, I've got to the end of the game. Basim was a hidden one. He's not to be trusted. I don't trust the hidden ones. But Hytham is a sweetheart. So it's kind of balanced there. Um, and then Eivor asks Cassandra, and she says, I don't work, something along the lines of, I don't work for the hidden ones, but I is it I admire their goals or I'm aligned to their goals? And again, another very important piece of information for, let's be honest, fans have been arguing for 3 years since Odyssey was released. Is Cassandra a quote unquote assassin? Is she a capital A assassin or hidden one member of the Brotherhood? Or is she a rogue agent? And we finally got some clues. She wields a hidden blade, so she must have some connection or have some occasional contact with them. But she says very clearly she likes their work. She's aligned to their goals, but she works alone. Which I think it's nice to hear that it still allows for a lot of interpretation. It allows for a lot of storytelling flexibility if they choose to use it in the future. But it does kind of settle that what is Cassandra's role? What has she been doing? What groups or what creed, for want of a better word, does she follow? And so I thought that was a very, very good couple of sentences to hear.
I think, but in that whole talk, there is something Cassandra Ava replies that has kind of put me in a bit of a concern about Valhalla's storytelling.
Okay.
And I really hate saying that because Valhalla's story is one of my favorite in the franchise. It's just she agrees that she also admires the roles that the assassins, well, the goals of the assassins.
Mm.
But during the entire story of Valhalla, she never once openly admits to Haytham that I can remember that she agrees or admires their work. So
Well, so this, yeah, this is one of the problems that we have with the way that Valhalla's post-release content is structured. Um, you can access Siege of Paris, Wrath of the Druids, and this story. I think the other stories, the DLCs, you can access even earlier. I think you can access them. Is it when you reach settlement level 2, or when you've completed one story arc? I think that may be wrong, but you can start the two DLC stories very early on. You start this one a little bit later, I think, but again, you can still start it long before you've finished the full story and been back to Norway, and Basim comes out of Yggdrasil and all the rest of it. So all these three expansions all suffer from the same problem, which is because you're allowed to start them at any time with a great degree of player choice. It's very hard to fit them in to Eivor's character growth or her chronology. You know, if this was being done after she'd been back to Norway and seen the ISU supercomputer and all the rest of it, she'd probably have a lot more appreciation for these devices, this piece of Eden that they're hunting. But if it's very early on, she should be more surprised and more shocked, for example, when she uses her Odin sight and sees Cassandra sparkling with golden beams. So that is, it's not a problem. Hey, it was still a good story and a good quest line to follow, but it's just one of those little things where you think if they made a more clear decision, this will only be accessible after the main story, you could make the narrative a bit more useful for developing the Eivor story. That's my opinion.
I think I do agree, but I think at the same time, I'm in the opinion, and I'm basing this off I can't remember the novel's name. Is it the German Saga?
Right.
I think it's. I can't. I'm not good in
Gearman Saga, that's
Gearman
like
Saga.
a prequel of Eivor's time, I think. I've not read it. I don't know.
It's a weird one because halfway through it, the main character German goes to Jorvik,
Okay.
and it's during the actual Jorvik arc Eivor meets, because you meet Eivor and she talks about going to Ravensthorpe and having her own clan. So you meet Eivor
Interesting.
again. And so when I see these DLCs, I kind of mentally disagree with arguing that, oh, this should be set after the main game. However,
Okay.
I understand with the times of the Siege of Paris, and that historically took place after main game, so that one's different. That should have gone after endgame.
Yeah.
But the others, it kind of fleshes out what Eivor did between each arc, because then it gives the whole sense that each arc wasn't done overnight. You know, it took years. I think this could have taken place over 5 years, for example. So having stories that don't fit into endgame, it kind of acts as those stories of in between, and I think that's where the crossover got me a bit confused, because I feel like this is a story of Eivor between her starting landing in England and reaching the Ignis of Ice. This is like something she did in the middle of it. It's not something she did afterwards. So I think that from that story point, it's kind of good, but it still gets confusing with the, with the way they talk about the dialogue choices. So it's just, to be honest, it's the whole problem of live service gaming.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
issue. I don't think it's directly down to the narrative direction or the developers who write the stories, because the stories are perfect. I think Siege of Paris' story is brilliant, so is Wrath of Druids, and so is this crossover. But when you've got a live service game, you have to work so hard to make sure everything fits somewhere. It's a
Mm,
nightmare. You
mm.
shouldn't have that restriction. I think drop live service is good if you make sure that after a 6 month period that gives everyone a chance to play, everything is permanently end game and just builds.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I think we made. I actually can't remember if we made this point when we spoke 2 weeks ago about we did our reaction episode to the new trailer, so Dawn of Ragnarok trailer, and then this crossover trailer. And with Dawn of Ragnarok in particular, I mean, I don't know how that's going to fit into the main story. Will it be an entirely separate standalone that you can just install and run? Do you have to have reached settlement level 2 or whatever, and then Eivor goes off to experience Ragnarok? We don't know yet. I suppose we shouldn't speculate too much, but what's clear is Valhalla November 2020, when it was released, was the game. Now Valhalla is the platform, and potentially all kinds of things can be bolted into that platform, like River Raids. What's the other game mode they've got? Oh, Mastery Challenges. Dawn of Ragnarok, kind of a separate standalone. So it is. How do you keep that narrative? Or maybe you just don't bother. Maybe just go have fun. You drink some
Go
of
have fun.
Valka's mushroom tea and go have fun. It's fine. And you know what? Some of this side content could be really enjoyable. I don't know. I reserve judgment at the moment.
if we enjoy it, that's all that matters. Like, I have no complaint about any of the content that's been released. Like, I don't like the River Raids or the Mass Challenge, but the DLCs I loved. This crossover in Valhalla, I can't get enough. You know, the only issue I have is that she's gone and we can't have her as a permanent Joms Viking. Because if we could,
Oh
I
God,
would,
can you
I
imagine
would
that?
spend, I would spend more time doing rival raids just to hear the back and forward between Cassandra
Right, so this
and
is a
Eivor.
point we need to get to. The dialogue between them is fantastic. I mean, congratulations to the writers, because them snipping at each other and trying to, especially Eivor, she is taking no shit at all, and Cassandra's a little more chilled. She's not rising to it, which is quite interesting. She's an older, wiser Cassandra, I think. Younger ancient Greek Cassandra would have not let a slight go by, and she would have kind of snapped back. But this is an older, wiser Cassandra, and she just shrugs off Eivor's. Is defensive the right word, or
I
maybe
would say
just
so.
cautious? But yeah, I'm not interested in all this shit. But Cassandra's a bit more chilled. But the dialogue is tip top. Really enjoyed it. It'd be worth playing. I have many. I actually saved the game after each quest of this story, so I could go back and replay it if I wanted to. I'd like to go back and take more pics, but anyway, yeah, the dialogue was superb. I think actually we should probably talk overall the story design. Again, one thing I want to call out, which I really appreciated, is so you've got these two characters, you've got these two gaming worlds. So we've got a very different structure, very different world events, very different. Let's call them location objectives, as they would have been in Odyssey. They're not. We don't have the equivalent in Valhalla. What I really liked was after that opening fight scene, so we've got this misty churchyard, and Cassandra needs help clearing the mist. Eivor, again, integrating the two worlds and the two characters. Eivor makes it very clear, I know this land, I know what's wrong here, there's a cursed symbol. And I thought that was just very simple, like the throwing axes in the fight scene. Great way of showing the abilities that we are used to as Valhalla players in the fight scene. Having Eivor go and destroy a cursed symbol, not only it's a nice little thing to do from a quick gameplay puzzle point of view, but it uses the existing available gameplay options in a way that advances the story, and it integrates them so tightly. I had to respect that. I thought that was great, because they could have just had a cutscene and then walked off to the next scene, but no, they had a specific task integrated into the Valhalla sort of world events in it, and it worked really well.
I will admit, I have to mention this because it was biggest point. I don't like that cursed fog area. It
Hey, why?
makes no sense to the lore
Ah,
because,
I have heard, well, I have also discussed this many times. What are these curse symbols? Is this an animus projection? Is Eivor drugged, or is she having like a psychosomatic reaction because she sees symbols that she's scared of, or whatever? What do you think?
well, from looking at it, there is notes left in the world next to these cursed symbols from townfolk who say they put these symbols up and these are to scare off, the Vikings, the Norse. So it is generally Eivor's belief that's what they are, because the notes compel them to be the note. These notes tell of town people putting them up to scare people away. So these are like, it's like us believing in something and somebody dragging it around. We're gonna believe it. So having Cassandra come out like, yes, there's a fog in this area, let's go destroy a cursed symbol. It's like you've just took something that was realistic, a belief system grounded, and made it confusing, if that makes sense. Like, there's no reason for Cassandra to see the fog from the curse symbol.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point. I'm going to blame it on mushrooms until I hear otherwise.
Mushrooms. I can only think of one logical argument for why she can see the mist, but I don't think it counts. And I don't know
Go
if you
on.
remember. I don't know if you remember. There's a line in the very first fight where, or if it's afterwards, where Eivor, um, what was it? Eivor or Cassandra asks why they've not been affected by the piece of Eden yet and one of the
Ah,
nightmares.
yes, yes.
My only thing would be maybe that they're not affected, but maybe Cassandra is sharing Aval's beliefs. That's the nightmare, that the vision they're sharing is the beliefs, because everyone's having the same vision, a shared vision of an eagle bearer, aka Cassandra. Is it possible that maybe Cassandra and Aval both have high concentrations of Isu DNA, are sharing the same wavelength of this is my fear, this is my world. I'm not scared of an eagle bearer, but I am scared of this curse symbol. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Cassandra has an enhanced level of Isu DNA. That's the whole bloodline thing from Pythagoras and Marini. Eivor, I actually don't know. Are sages? Geez, I'm going to sound like a right idiot now. Do sages have an enhanced level of Isu DNA in terms of a few
Um,
percentage points, like Cassandra does, or on other tainted ones, or are they effective? Well, they've kind of got the consciousness, quote unquote, of their Isu forebears. So Eivor has Javi's spirit, soul, consciousness. I don't know the right word to use, but does that mean she's almost like a clone, or is it like hidden code in her DNA? This is getting a bit. I'm not sure now. We need an expert on the lore of
um,
sages to help us out here.
I believe, um, I think they do possess especially a high level, of Isu DNA.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
So it feels to me like then that even though they may have obtained that high concentration through different routes, it's the same outcome.
Yeah, because I think normal people, um, yeah, a normal genome for Isu DNA to human is 0.0005%, but a sage can have up to from 5% to 6% in their genomes,
Okay, gotcha.
which is considerably high, because
Yeah.
that if a human has like not a human barely has is just enough. So how much Isu DNA does Cassandra have?
I think there's either speculation or there may even be on the wiki. I don't know what the source would be if it's on the wiki, but it's a few percent.
Right. I
Again, that
think
may be unsubstantiated, so to say.
um I'm I'm probably gonna say Cassandra will have the highest level because she is physically her father was an Isu, wasn't he?
No, I don't think
No.
he was. I think he was human, but and again, my exact knowledge of their dialogue is not great. I don't remember it, but effectively, Pythagoras and Marini both had higher than normal levels, or substantially higher than normal levels of Isu DNA. By making a child together, they would ensure that that child would keep or even enhance that level. Um, and Cassandra passed it on to Elpidios, and maybe she had other children. We don't know, I suppose. Um,
So if let's say if we know that that this is off tangent, but if we know that by the law first to
I think a lot of this
asymmetry,
conversation is, but this is great. I'm enjoying it. Carry on.
if we go with the statistics, Cassandra will have 6% Isu DNA. That's more than normal. I would say Cassandra must have higher than 6%. I'm going to say about 10% just to be law of average because of
Mm,
high high concentration. So maybe that's them two with the highest form of Isu DNA on the island, and their vision wasn't going to be of an eagle bearer who accidentally set off the device, but of Cassandra, because no, I mean Eivor, because Eivor would have had more beliefs in the island. You know, Cassandra is a nomad, a trespasser. She has no fears. I'm not being real. What can an immortal really fear? She can't die. But Cassandra's whole, I mean, I'm gonna keep getting these people mixed up. Eivor's life is just
it's okay.
pure.
Two badass combat women, warrior women.
But yeah, Eivor's life is pretty much belief in God. So maybe the apple honed on that, and Cassandra was just accidentally dragged along for a ride.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because just on the god's point of view, I think, I don't know. Again, my knowledge of Valhalla and every word that Eivor says during the story is not great. I get the impression, or have the memory, that Eivor is much more believing and connected to her gods. Whether that's her sage influence or just the fact that she's been brought up to believe in the Norse gods, and hasn't seen any other evidence to shake that belief. Whereas I don't think Cassandra particularly is bothered by her Greek gods, not during the time of Odyssey anyway, when she's a young woman. I would imagine 1400 years of wandering the earth has probably taught her that all gods are false. But anyway, and they're all just Isu. But I just think it's interesting that Eivor has retained that belief and Cassandra didn't at a similar age in their lives. Maybe that's a side effect of Cassandra's troubled upbringing, and what happened with her adopted father.
I blame Fate of Atlantis.
Well, indeed, if you suddenly, I suppose that's a good point. If you suddenly see that your gods like Poseidon are not gods, they're just strange sky wizards with big fancy helmets, then yes, that's gonna
Sky Wizards.
that's gonna shake your belief, isn't it? I do want to return to before we return to the actual story. I remember talking of these cursed objects. So the very first thing you do after Eivor has met Cassandra is you need to destroy the cursed object to clear the fog, so that Cassandra can continue her search for the piece of Eden, or clues to find its location. Somebody I remember in a very involved discussion on one of our discords, may have been you, mate. Somebody suggested, actually might have been Louise. Somebody suggested that perhaps these cursed objects contain a tiny fragment of an Isu shard, or a tiny fragment of an apple of Eden, just enough to fog the minds and terrify normal humans, but someone with enhanced DNA, someone who is a sage, a tainted one, can approach it and deal with it. They still feel effects, like their vision goes foggy, they sort of stagger and lose their strength, but they can fight it and cope with it and deal with it. And I think that's a really neat explanation. It does beg the question, how did these fragments arrive there? Who built this sort of shrine around them? But I like that as an explanation of what these cursed objects are.
That has to be my favourite explanation. I'm going to go with it. England is the land of myths and mystery. We have ley lines that connect every stone circle, which, if a stone circle must be connected to Isu, then the ley lines must be an Isu tunnel for some magic mumbo jumbo. So I'm going to agree with that. Every curse symbol is a part Isu somehow.
Let's go with it. So I think in terms of, let's do a quick overview of the story. So I tell you what's strange is at this point, Cassandra becomes our quest giver, which is rather strange to have the whole game flipped around. We've spent time playing as Cassandra and receiving quests from all kinds of people, and now we are playing and as Eivor, and Cassandra is telling us, here is your quest, we meet here, we go here, we find these things. So we follow the clues and we find I suppose we could call it an ancient vault under the Isle of Skye. We need to unlock the door there, and to do that we have to gather 5 shards. It took me far too long, I have to say, to realise that the shards, the little triangular shards that we are collecting from around the island, they are the same as the shards that we used in the pyramid that the Cult of Cosmos had underneath Delphi. Did you spot that, Declan?
I did not know.
Yeah.
But that is such a cool nod.
Yep. It was great. And again, it was a little thing. I just thought, I like this. It's a nice little... What I like is it's another way that they're making some of what we've seen in Odyssey, not unique to Odyssey, but a bit more of the recurring established lore. So there are these shards of, let's say, unspecified Isu power or unspecified control. I suppose they're kind of like keys, aren't they? You bring 5 of them together and they unlock the vault. You bring, is it 42 of them together under Delphi to build the pyramid? I forget the exact number, but I liked that as a nod to what we saw in Odyssey. We unlock the vault. There's a bit more sort of I tell you what, once you unlock the vault and you've got the piece of Eden there on the far end of the vault, actually you've got to do a light beam puzzle, which again, nice callback to some of the light beam puzzles that we've done with Layla on the what do you call it? The animus anomalies. Yeah, Declan, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Just before we continue with the rest of the mission, I do want to make one point, if that's okay.
Mm,
There's one of the shards I hated collecting.
go on.
And the reason for it is, another reason why I hate choices in Assassin's Creed is there's a woman who you have to fight,
Ah.
bribe, or if you fight it enough, you get the persuasion.
So I remember what my choice was. What was your choice?
Well, I fight everyone, so I could just persuade her.
Good man. That's what I did. That's
Cassandra
what I did.
Silver Tongue. But I love the idea of RPGs having canonical missions, which is what Valhalla does. You know, you have the canonical dialogue option always, but you also have like information type options. I don't know if you've noticed that for a lot of the talk. So you can pick how the conversation goes, but it always comes up with one outcome. But
Yes, it doesn't actually matter what dialogue options you choose, does
yeah,
it?
but I don't like the fact that when you've got these flight, persuades, or fight, I know it's a gameplay thing, and people are like, "Oh, stop being nitpicky." It's kind of like, what's canonical? I know we're supposed to be building Eivor, but from what I see in the game, is Eivor's not one person to go around throwing punches for no reason. She does seem
Absolutely.
level-headed. So
yeah.
canonically, persuasion seems the most logical thing for everything in the game. Persuasion on money. I can't see her go around throwing fists at everyone.
So let me ask you a question.
Ooh.
Did you spot, so if you choose to flight or to charm, was it charisma? You have to be charisma level whatever,
3, I think it was.
to charm the shard out of the lady's hands. Did you spot her later?
I didn't know, but I don't think I was looking.
Let me tell you. So the final scene, when you're back at Kilterraglan and it's the wedding, it turns out that Eivor and Cassandra have kind of gate crashed a wedding party and they're having some drinks and some fun. The lady that you don't kill, if you choose to bribe her or use your charisma, she's there, and it's her daughter getting married. Now, what I don't know, and I have got a save game, so I could go back to that chapter and choose to fight her and kill her. If you fight her and kill her, I wonder how different. I mean, first of all, she won't be there at the wedding in the longhouse, but I wonder if the dialogue for the wedding day would be different. So that would be an interesting little thing to explore.
On that point, then, I am now going to state on record that I now believe that persuasion is canonically 100% logical, because if she is the mother of the bride, then I'm going to say logically you wouldn't fight her, you wouldn't kill her.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say logically, because Eivor is a silver tongue, she'll talk to anyone, and the fight option is not the canon one. I could be wrong, but that's my canon. That's my head canon.
That'd be interesting. I wonder then, so when they're coming to write the wiki guides and they're sort of doing like the talk throughs of each memory, how do they know? Are they just making a guess, or do they? Because I haven't read the. I do sometimes consult the wiki for the older games and the older sort of memories because they're just linear. I've never bothered to look at any of the wiki guides for Odyssey or Valhalla to see what the story is. What I love, I mean, respect to the wiki editors, they write every line of dialogue. So if you want to know the script, for example, of a memory, they're in the wiki. It's amazing. But I wonder what they do then. Do they sort of flag one? This is the canonical choice here. But then it begs the question: how do they know? And we don't have a novel like with Odyssey. We had the novel that said that this is the ending. These are the people that survive. This is where Cassandra goes. This is the order she does her quests in. When the story branches, but we don't have that for Valhalla because we don't have a novelization. So I wonder. Anyway, perhaps that's not really on topic, but
from what I've seen of guides, what they do is, because Valhalla, it actually doesn't matter. They do tell you that you have these combat options, but none of them matter because they don't change the outcome. Okay. And I actually love that about Valhalla. I love that you can make your own character using Animus databases to build how she would speak, but you'll always get a canonical ending from everyone else. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how I want choices. I want
Yeah.
choices to be something we can do for fun, but you'll never lose the canonical ending. You'll always get the exact same ending, except for, like, punch Sigurd or not, but you've got to punch past him.
Did you? I didn't punch pass him
I
in
did.
the game. Did you?
Oh, yeah. I would punch him again.
I'll tell you what, I must take a picture of it and put it on Twitter. I have got a very cool t-shirt about this exact part of the story. So I set a reminder to myself to share a picture of punching Bassett. Anyway, we are
Off
we are
track.
again way off topic. So we collect the shards, we unlock the vault, the cave of gold, as it's called. There's a piece of Eden there. Eivor and Cassandra together kind of bring it under control. I'll be honest with you, actually, and it's only been 4 days. I think I finished it Sunday. So it's only been, oh my word, it's only been 3 days since I finished the story. I don't remember what happens next. Does Cassandra just kind of put it in her bag? I honestly can't remember. I remember the final cutscene at the wedding festival, but I don't remember what Cassandra does with the piece of Eden.
I think she takes it. Truly, I think she takes it, and then she says, this is my destiny now, because Eivor goes to pick it up, and Eivor's like, oh, look, shiny Isu ball, it's mine, but she can't pick it up because it's not Isu's. I think it's because Eivor, even though she's a sage, she's too weak to control the power.
Yeah.
She's not strong enough. If you look at the cutscenes slowly, which I'm glad you brought it up, because this is getting some territory here that I've wanted to discuss.
Okay.
We've all, and a slight tangent, but I'm getting to my point, we all know that there's a conscience living in the Shroud of Eden, right?
I did not.
Did you know?
Etta made the Shroud of Eden, because we see that in Fate of Atlantis, don't we?
Yes, somebody puts their conscience in the Shroud of Eden. I can't remember who it
Okay.
was.
In
But
both of them, because there's 2, isn't there?
I think it's the one in Syndicate, because it's how Juno was defeated. They put the shroud on her, and the conscience, talks to Juno, telling her she's not strong enough, and then Charlotte kills her while she's distracted.
Oh, okay.
But the reason why I bring it
That's
up...
in a comic, mate. I don't read comics.
No, I found it on the wiki. Wiki. So the reason why I bring it up is when Eivor is struggling to hold on to the Apple of Eden, and Cassandra, comes in, you see a shadow figure behind her
What?
materialize out of nowhere and
Behind
start
Eivor?
walking. Yes, like a big projection, and
What?
start walking. I will, print screen.
I have all of the scenes recorded.
Well,
I need to go and see this. Do you mind if I quickly look it up now?
I am, while I'm discussing my point of view, I am,
Please do. Please do.
sharing a picture of the cutscene in Discord so you can see it as we're discussing. But you can see a figure walking behind Eivor. You can obviously see the legs standing, the hand. I truly believe that this Apple of Eden was imbued with a spirit, with a conscience of an Isu. And the
What?
reason why Eivor
Yeah,
was...
there's an arm and a hand. Wow.
And this is, fan theory territory. But the reason why I believe Eivor was weak compared to Cassandra was because she's already imbued with an Isu conscience.
Yeah.
Her mind is already fighting the Isu conscience because she's, Odin. But Cassandra doesn't have that. Cassandra's open-minded, and she's got Alethea to back her up. So
Yeah.
and I think the whole power of Eivor's mind destroyed the spirit because the Apple of Eden just goes quiet, and then, as I said, Cassandra's like, I'll put it in my bag and I'm off. Whoop, we did it. But there is a figure there. There is something there inside the apple.
That is fascinating.
That is cool as hell, in my opinion.
Just fast forwarding to the scene now. So as they walk into the cave, the piece of Eden shows them, what would you call them? visions. And what was really touching was they were visions of Cassandra's past. So we see Spartan shields, Athenian shields, Greek columns, um, and then we see a little eagle toy. Do you remember that bit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Chara, which is Phoebe's little toy.
Oh,
And
don't.
what I really liked about that scene, apart from the callback there, was these pieces of Eden are nasty, and they will do anything they can to, I guess, to stop you in your tracks or to distract you or to control you. So this piece of Eden obviously goes deep into Cassandra's psyche, and it pulls out something really emotional to try and distract her, and that's the thing it picks, which I thought was a nice sort of nod to their relationship, but also a nice way of showing that these pieces of Eden are pretty awful, and must be destroyed.
But the question is, how does she destroy the apple, Ellie? Because people have been speculating for later that you cannot destroy pieces of Eden so easily. I think if you try, you probably
There's
end up destroying the crater in the world.
I'm trying to think. Well, there's the one in Syndicate in, is it Brewster's lab right at the start? Evie, isn't that one destroyed? I mean, they're applying huge. We don't know. It's 1868, but they're applying huge amounts of electricity to it, aren't they? And I think that results in it being destroyed.
But it does take down the whole building.
It does. You are right. It leaves a smoking crater.
So it's possible to destroy it with enough power, but the damage
Yeah.
you would do is it's like trying to hit an atomic bomb with a hammer. You're going to break the bomb, but you're going to destroy half of wherever you are.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So it's an interesting point. So then what is Cassandra doing with them? Just carrying them around in her sack? This is interesting to speculate. But yeah, that's a fascinating screenshot showing that figure in the background. So whose spirit is that? Maybe we'll never know, but
I don't know. I've just got this funny feeling now you said it. I don't know why. Have you ever read Lord of the Rings?
no, I started and I just couldn't get into it.
Have you ever read The Hobbit or seen The Hobbit?
No. I've seen the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings films, but I've not seen the Hobbit films actually, funnily enough.
Okay, well, I'm just going to make some fun artist's dream. So if you please draw this. I'm imagining Smaug as Cassandra just sitting on a pile of gold.
Oh, Smaug has, he's a dragon, isn't he?
So
Yeah,
just Cassandra, like, I have all this gold, Isu shiny stuff. I'm gonna sit on it like a king, like a dragon, and ain't no one gonna do crap because I can't die. Literally, someone's gonna go round to her place where she's been hanging out for millions of years, and it's gonna be Hoarder's paradise of random Isu junk, all
Isu junk. I love it. An Isu junkyard.
It's gonna be like, it's like those shows, Hoarder next door, like Skyrim memes of people just dumping cheese in her house. She's gonna have like 4 garage fulls of just Isu balls, and
there'll
just
be
like
Isu balls, there'll be swords, old spears, all sorts of crap, shrouds, all just thrown around. Oh,
she's
brilliant!
not got a care in the world. She's like, it's broke now. You can have it for 50p if you want, but it's broke. I can't get out of my head now. I've probably ruined everyone's image of Cassandra as just a dealer of Isu artifacts.
It's brilliant. So let's move on to the final part of the story. So we get to the final. There's a wedding happening in Kilter-Raglan. Eivor and Cassandra have some drinks. There's a drinking contest between Eivor and Cassandra. I lost the drinking contest. I am out of practice, and you need a bit of timing. So, and I was getting on PC, it's spacebar to drink, and then it's A and D to sort of steady Eivor as she starts to get drunk. And I was starting to get back into the muscle memory of tapping spacebar at the right time. And then as soon as it popped up the prompt for A to sort of lean left or lean right, I don't know. My brain just totally scrambled. I messed it up. Eivor choked on her drink, and I did that 2 or 3 times, and I lost the drinking contest. So, how did you get on?
I really don't want to be mean, but I was really angry that Cassandra got the better of me in the cinematic fist fight, so I couldn't let her lose a bar fight. I think.
Okay.
Oh god, this is gonna sound so terrible. I saved the game, before the drinking minigame, lost 4 times, reloaded the save each 4 times till I won,
That's fine,
and
mate.
then once I won, I got a satisfaction that, you may be able to kick my ass under a table, Cassandra, but I can drink you under a table.
I think that's entirely fair. That's a gamer exploiting the game system to get the result they want.
I didn't stay with the flight in. She kept being this, and I was like, no, I want to openly admit right now that I believe Cassandra could beat Eivor in a fist fight, but I am not having my Eivor lose in flighting or drinking.
Love it. Love it.
We're doing
That's
it.
great. That's great.
Uh,
So you do the drinking. Do you recall the conversation they have at the table?
I don't recall, no.
So Cassandra teaches Eivor a Greek swear word. You know it.
We all know it.
We all know it. We're not even going to say it because we all know it. But it is a funny bit of dialogue. The only thing that's a bit of a shame is that Eivor doesn't return the favour and teach her the word backroute or anything else like that, because that would have been quite fun.
That would have been. Imagine that, just like 10 years' time, we see another game and just Cassandra's running around and swearing like a Viking.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Yeah.
I would pay to see that. But I've got to admit, that is weird enough the only ending that this game deserves. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, it's gonna sound odd, but all the way through, pardon me, the way the dialogue works, I think the mission would have ended terribly if it was just like shake my hand, get in a boat and go. But it's why I said at the start I wish it was my Yom's Viking and I'll do River Raids. Even though they have that little back and forward, they like best friends. The way they,
they end on a high point. Yeah.
Yes, it's like it's true Eivor. That's truly Eivor. She even says she even quotes and says like, after we've done a victory, we Viking celebrate. So she's teaching Cassandra the way of a Viking. We're gonna celebrate.
Yeah.
And that's perfect to the point of I hated it ending because
which ending did you hate? Sorry, do you mean this story ending or the main game ending?
No, this ending because I just kind of felt with this ending, I didn't want it to end because Cassandra suits Eivor's personality so good. It's like I could play an entire game with just Cassandra and Eivor because
having them snipping at each other and sort of bantering and egging each other on to that would be hilarious.
It reminds me, and I don't know why, of Evie and Jacob Fry.
I've seen a few people make exactly that comparison, and I like it.
It's just perfect for it. And I think at the same time, I've got a mental image of the voice actors just having the biggest laugh in the world. Cecil and I forgot her name. Melisanthe. I could just see them having the greatest laugh ever. And, it just made the campaign better with them two just being, mind-blowing.
Yes. Yeah, there was good stuff there. I'm going to just very briefly try and look up who the writer was, because I ended up just through accident, but a very happy accident, in a brief Twitter conversation with the writer, and I basically said the writing is fantastic. Thank you so much. This is great. So I just want to look them up. So the writing was by where is it? Okay. She's Kate M. Kate K MacMull on Twitter. Lead narrative designer at Ubisoft Quebec. Previous work includes Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Immortals Phoenix Rising. And so apparently she wrote the dialogue for the Valhalla side of the crossover, and then another lady at Ubisoft Quebec, Alyssa, who is Moss in Mind on Twitter. She wrote the Odyssey side, and I think the writing on both sides was amazing, and I've publicly thanked both of the writers and said both of these stories were the writing of these stories was fantastic, because it really was.
On about the fantastic writing, sorry if I interrupted you.
No, go for it, mate.
Claudio ACY, fundamental skills, just shared
Mm,
something. And I do want to quickly give a shout out that even though I did see Wasimo post the details, apparently it was Claudio Sky who first published on Twitter.
yeah.
So I have to give him thanks, for the whole letters. But he's just posted a screenshot of the Isu we see stepping out the shadows. There's a
Yes.
quote that says, "Unknown, honor our blood long after we're gone."
Okay.
And it's very, and he does say, this quote is a bit enigmatic.
Yeah.
But if you say it very slowly, honor our blood after we're gone. Eivor is a sage. Her blood is Isu blood.
Yes.
So you've got to honor the sages after they're gone. So maybe the device wasn't trying to take over Eivor because it can. Maybe it sensed that she was a sage.
Mm,
And she was,
mm.
a warning that she needs to keep honoring our blood. And maybe that will tie into the Ragnarok DLC. And I've just made a big boo boo there by jumping the gun 100 years. But
Hang on.
imagine,
How have you jumped the gun? I'm sorry.
because we shouldn't be speculating Ragnarok because it's, we don't know the gameplay
True.
details. So me speculating that a sage device is, on our blood long after we're gone, has me speculating that this encounter is what gets Eivor back into listening to Odin after she cast him out.
Ah.
So I'm jumping the gun a lot, I
Okay.
know,
I
and I
mean that's
shouldn't.
interesting. Yeah.
It it's just, having that Ace saying, on our blood long after we're gone, having imagine just that ticking away in Eivor's brain for years. So it's a hard one, maybe it's like a tie up for the Ragnarok.
Mm, mm.
I don't know, I could be jumping the gun there. That's what I mean.
No, it would be an interesting way of bridging the real world story in Valhalla and then what looks like a very heavily mythical story in Dawn of Ragnarok and giving it a certain amount of grounding in the real world, should we say? So yeah, it's a good call.
Just there's so much with the DLC that you don't know why.
Mm, mm.
It could just be a really cool enigmatic quote that means nothing, but I'm not going to be deterred that I believe it has something, you know, more to it than people may think,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, understood. Um, okay, let's close out the story. So at the end of the wedding festivities, actually during them, so they have their drinking contest, and Cassandra, no, I'm doing it as well. Eivor goes to get another drink, and then the camera sort of pans, and Cassandra's walking out of the hall. She turns to look back at Eivor, and then she walks out, and she's gone. We don't know where she goes. We don't know where she may travel next. Her story now is, I mean, I love the fact that Odyssey crossover closed that story so well. I really appreciate this story we've had here in Valhalla. Of course, it leaves the door open for the future. And what did you think about that final ending as she walks out?
I think it was perfect because the problem with Cassandra, and I'm wording a problem for a reason, is from a storyteller point of view, the potentials for a story is infinity. You've got an infinite amount of stories you can tell between the fall of the Roman Empire. Cassandra could be there. Modern day settings, what she's been doing, how did she get that fancy suit at the end of Odyssey. So giving her a closing statement in Valhalla is just too risky. It's like having a book and setting the characters up for a trilogy, and then in book one you close in it where you think that's it, she's done nothing new. We still don't know about the hidden blade, so that's a thread still missing, I
Mm,
believe.
yeah, yeah,
We don't know where she's taken the Isu devices. We know why she's hunting them, but what else does she hunt them? And her disappearing, not looking back, is just further proof of the mystery of Eivor, of Cassandra, and
yeah, yeah.
who is she really? And I just love that they don't close any threads, because if they did, it would ruin who she could be in the future.
Yeah, I liked the fact that it's left open. I know there's lots of fans of Cassandra who would be happy to see her back again soon. I'm a fan of Cassandra, but I'm more on the side of leave it be for a while. I don't think it would be. I think it would almost. It might become a bit laughable if she pops up in every game as a side quest. Just here popping in to get rid of a piece of Eden. See you soon. So I personally would be happy to not see her again for a number of years. I'm talking real years. We're now 2021. Maybe she will appear again in the future where it's appropriate, but they've left it open, haven't they? She may appear again. We may get future crossovers or future stories that fill in her Cassandra story further back in time. We don't know what she was doing. Well, we know what she was doing in Alexandria. She was leaving a scroll of Herodotus's writings in the Library of Alexandria, but we don't know what else she did in Egypt. So there's an obvious future location and date that we could perhaps see her. But personally, with the way that Odyssey was closed so nicely, with the way that this story gave us a little hint at what Cassandra's ongoing task is, I feel happy with how things have been done and how things have been closed.
What I would like to see, and from a lore point of view, I don't know if this is possible, so I could be like completely wrong, but I would find it amusing if in, let's say, 10 years before, no, maybe in like the last year before she meets Layla, hands over the staff, she gets bumped into by a random person, and the person invites her to sit down for a coffee, and she sits down, and the person reveals that she's a sage,
Mm-hmm.
but they remember their life as Eivor. And I don't know if a sage can remember their lives, so I could be wrong, but I think it'd be really cute, like as she's like getting ready for her end, her mission's closing, a sage tells her about what Eivor did and how Eivor lived a life. I think that would be kind of cool, but
that would be kind of cool.
I don't know if sages do remember some of their past lives. I think it would be nice if they did. That'd be kind of maybe some do, some don't. I don't know, but could you imagine that dialogue? Just they're like, I remember being a
I've seen you
Viking
before.
called Cassandra.
Yeah,
that would be like,
yeah.
What? What? I was a Viking called Eivor of the Ravensforth. I don't remember much about my life, but I remember your face. That would be like, what?
That would be, I really like that as a possible future new spin on sages and what we know about sages. Could open up some interesting storytelling points, couldn't it?
Because I think Basim remembers his life as Basim, but he also remembers his life as Loki.
They all, I mean, sages all remember their current life. So Germain remembers that he's Germain, but he also knows that he was getting visions of his. I don't actually know who he was a sage of. Was it Aita or was it someone else?
Doesn't matter. Aita, because
is it? Are they all Aita's sages, or are there others? No, we know there are others. Of course we do, because of Eivor and all the rest of it.
I think in the lore, Aita is the only known sages out before Valhalla.
Yes, you're right.
But I could be wrong. I think that's why Valhalla is the best for the sages, because I know people are going to argue we can't make all Isu gods. I get that. 100%. You can't, no. But the idea of a sage device making hundreds, that makes it more believable. And kind of Isu be like, we may be able to not stop the catastrophe, but hey, let's cheat death. And to me, that just, and not to be crude, but that's just me imagining a ton of Isu just giving middle finger to the catastrophe, just like, screw it, you can kill us now, but we'll be back in 100 years, so do your worst, you can't beat us. And I kind of like that idea. They're just little jokily, they just last laugh at time and death. I'm a very weird person.
No, not at all. Not at all. I have one final question for you. There are some world events. So there's a stone circle, although you do that as part of the story anyway. And then there are a couple of other small world events. There are also some pieces of treasure on the Isle of Skye. So there's the usual tungsten and whatnot, but there are a couple of unique epic weapons? Did you find those?
Sadly, I didn't. I just sped through the story just so I could
Okay.
get it done because I haven't found any enjoyment in Return to Valhalla's world, and that's not a
Say that
problem
again.
with
You haven't enjoyed going back.
No, that's not like a problem with Valhalla. I will admit that now. That's just me as a player. I don't like revisiting RPG worlds. I like just to do side stuff, and then once I finish the campaign, I don't play the game again.
Yeah.
It's why it takes me so long, because when I go back into a world where I haven't done the campaign and I've done the campaign, there's never any urgency to keep doing side quests.
I get
There's
your
no
point.
urgency
Definitely.
to level up, so I may not do them, but with Ragnarok coming, I may do them so I can level up, because I ended the entire campaign of Ava at 366 power.
Oh, really? Oh,
So
okay. So you got some way to go then.
I know people keep saying this, but this is why when everyone's like, oh, you need the microtransaction gear to get good,
No,
you
you
need
don't.
time savers. I'm like,
No, you
I'm
don't.
here on 366. I beat the entire campaign on normal. I
Yeah.
have master stealth setting on, so it's the
Yeah.
hardest stealth setting because I'm a numpty, and I'm on 360. And I
No,
walked up to a
I mean,
stone bear in Jotunheim at 400, and I beat it. And I was
mm,
like, yeah, just
mm,
shoot it with a ton of arrows. It's fine.
yeah. I mean, I'm like power level, whatever the highest power level is now, 475 or something with the new points they've added in the,
Damn, stronger than me.
what do you call it? But everything kind of scales with you anyway. So what's the point? And if you want to, just set it to easy or whatever. I think you can adjust the enemy's scaling as well. So yeah, it doesn't matter. I won't spoil it. Do I spoil it? No, I won't spoil it. But there are two weapons on the island that are nice to collect. That's all I'll say.
I'll have a
Um,
look.
so collect those just to have them in your inventory. They've got some. The spear has. I mean, I'm a dual spear wielding warrior anyway, as you know. So finding a spear was nice. So I have now equipped that spear because it has got some nice. What do you call it? Not the runes, like the set bonus or the gear bonus to your combat. So yeah, worth doing, my friend.
I have this really weird obsession of building Avor as swords, because I like the mental skilled sword designs, a bow,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it, because I just feel like Assassin wants to equip light, and a big spear is a vampire parkouring off a rooftop, and the spear's
You're
going to
not
be going
wrong
right
there.
for
That
his
is a good
shoulder.
point.
if I'm doing leap of faith, all you're going to hear is a snap. Oh wait, there's another spear broken. Get the tape, fellas. Get the tape.
You did make a good point. My Ava with her two sort of 8 foot long spears is not going to be very agile for parkour, perhaps.
Then again, the fun fact, and this is totally off topic, you could be on an eagle viewpoint, two guards, you're getting ready to leap of faith. Just launch the spears. Launch them at the guards, leap of faith, they're dead, you get up, pick your spears.
Mm,
No damage done. You've got into the
true,
restricted area.
true.
Two quick and easy assassinations. If you can throw a spear that well, then I'm running the other way just in case. But I will applaud anyone who can do Valhalla's combat with spears, because I've tried it for 20 minutes and I struggled like mad.
Really?
Yeah, I just couldn't
I
get the flow of it.
build for speed. You use lightweight build for speed,
Uh,
parry so you can open up. I love it, mate. It's fast and furious, and you do a finisher which is like a sort of 360 spin of the blade. So it's good for dealing with you're surrounded with many enemies. So I do like it.
I kind of have my entire ruin set to stealth and assassin damage, just because, and I know it doesn't work all the time, but I love getting guards running at me and then I just play dead. It's just so hilarious. You play dead, they walk off, and then jump up and assassinate one. It's like, ha!
Gotcha. It's funny. I've never built for assassination in Valhalla, especially when you've got the option to turn on guaranteed assassination. So I just build for melee. Um, Although I am, now that they've improved the stealth, I am playing more stealthily. I did several of the locations here on the Isle of Skye stealthily, and it kind of worked, and I didn't get detected through walls, and it was a bit more forgiving. So I think the changes they've made in the new patch are good.
I've had a lot of fun. I've set some stuff. I think I just turned off the amount of guards that would chase after you and the duration, just because we can't double assassination yet. But since making the duration a bit shorter so they get distracted easily, so they walk off, I'm having a ton of more fun of like stab, bush, smoke bomb. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's all the time for tonight, unless you got any more points.
I think so. I think we've covered the story. We've spoken a bit about how Cassandra fits in, what it means for Eivor, what might happen in the future. It's been a really good conversation. I mean, I enjoyed the story a lot. I think for me personally, the Odyssey half had more impact, but that's because I've just spent more time in Greece, and I just never thought for 1 second that we would get entirely new map and an entirely new story in this 3-year-old game, and we did. It was amazing. But it's nice to have Cassandra back in Valhalla. I enjoyed the content. I enjoyed the quests and the story. And as we've said, the dialogue between them is great. So yeah, it's been a really good discussion and great content to have in Valhalla.
And I only want New Game Plus now just so I can play through this DLC
Yes,
again.
please. Yes, please. New Game Plus.
New Game
Although,
Plus is...
to be fair, they are the post-release dev team. I can't remember the guy's name, but he did say in an interview that'll be the last thing that we do. So it could be another year away yet. To be honest, New Game Plus.
I think New Game Plus is just technically near impossible for Valhalla.
Apparently so, but I don't really understand why.
The best way to explain it is there's no loot pools.
There's no what? Sorry.
No loot pools.
Okay.
So you know how in Odyssey you kill guards and all the weapons just spawn?
Yeah.
Well, because Valhalla has specific locations for weapons, skills, such and such,
Yes.
what they'll have to cater is if you, James, complete 100% of the map and end game and you want to do a new gameplay trophy,
Yeah.
the devs would have to figure a way of removing all those unique chests and skill books from the world. Otherwise, you'll be left with areas where you can't get all the wealths because you've already got the weapons. So
I mean, I'm not a developer, I suppose. Maybe I shouldn't comment. Doesn't seem that difficult to me. Just hide them from the map.
there is that, but then you got to think of, let's say, Jorvik has, I think that's one skill book in there. So let's just say one guy has completed 99% of it, he's just got one skill book in Jorvik. They'd have to then work out how to hide all the stuff and count as completed on the wealth stuff this one guy except this one trophy. And then you may get someone who sped run it with nothing left. So it's
True.
trying to make sure everyone's game registers that you've completed locations. And
I mean, on the gear side, I don't bother. Well, I've stopped. When I finished Odyssey and was kind of done with it, I had level 99 gear. Everything was fully upgraded, and I thought, yeah, I feel like I've exhausted this game and I've had a great time. And I kind of wondered if I would do the same in Valhalla. Would I upgrade every piece of gear to epic level and the top level of all the upgrades? You need a lot of materials for that. Farming materials is not very exciting. There's not that many materials in the world, so I lost interest. But it seems to me that a new game plus, where let's say you loot Varin's axe again, or something. That's a bad example because I think you get that in the story, but you go and loot a unique weapon like the Yingling Sayax. Why not have it that when you loot it again in the New Game Plus, it auto upgrades it to the top level as like a little free gift? You know, well done for doing a New Game Plus. Here's a free gear upgrade. That could be a bit of fun. You know,
that would work. That would solve a lot. So if it auto looted every chest, then everyone would get the top rated gear, which would be perfect. If you've already got everything on the top rated, you'll just get tons of materials. So if you've got stuff that you need to upgrade, you can upgrade. And if you've got leftover abilities, you could just get gold or some other currency.
Yeah, why not?
That could work. I could see that working.
Yeah, absolutely. So I look forward to that because I would like to play the story again, but I don't really want to have to. I don't want to grind every side location and every story arc. I just want to do the bare minimum of the Eivor, Basim, Sigurd story, kind of soak it all in, and then I'm done. That's what I would like to do. So we'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully they'll add it in, but at this moment in time, it took me near enough 4 months to complete the game. I don't want to do 4 months again.
No, same. I'm the same, mate. It was released. What was it? Early 10th of November, 12th of November.
Yeah.
I finished it. Well, I finished the main game around 2 months later, middle of January, and that was long enough. I'm afraid to say.
It was a great journey, but trying to avoid spoilers was whoa.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare on my end. So thank you again for such an amazing episode. And fun fact, we're recording this on the 21st. This is our final episode of 2021.
Woo.
So this episode
It's been a good year, mate. It's been a really good year.
It has. So this episode will be out New Year's Day. So our first episode in 2022.
Yep.
So it will be officially the first episode of year 3 of the show. I feel weird saying the show's been running for 3 years when I used to sit there on the sofa going, I don't think it'll last more than 2. What can you talk about for 3 years? So
we are not running out of content yet.
Not yet. No, I've got tons of stored up. I had a bath the other day and I was thinking to myself, what could I talk about next? And then I started thinking about Arno and Jacob and everybody else. And said, maybe we could talk about Arno. But I don't know why.
I mean, you know me, ideas. I'm always happy to talk about my favourite baguette assassin, so why not?
Arno's is so cool. So, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you have a great New Year. I hope you had a great, New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And I hope you had a nice Christmas as well.
It's like time travel. Planning this stuff in advance, my brain's fried. Thank you everyone for listening all through 2021. I know it's been a long year and hopefully 2022 is better. If you'd like to offer your opinions on the crossover stories, then please reach out to Twitter at ACLetsTalk and at James to the Quid, or you can email me at assassinscreed@gmail.com. And thank you all for continued support. And in 2022, we will be evolving the show just from Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, which is what we are. We always talk Assassin's Creed. But as explained in the Twitter thread, we want to involve you, the community, a lot more. So we're going to be evolving from just our regular talk show to getting you guys, the community, involved. So hopefully for 2022, we can have more community members joining and having some fun. So thank you everyone for listening and see you all next week.
See you soon. Bye-bye.